What's up, everybody? T3 here from Future Nature. One thing I wanted to go over with y'all real quick, and seeing as I've been doing some fire tip videos lately, is the 5-minute fire. So the key is to be able to get a fire going in any weather conditions, sun, rain, or snow. And it's been raining for a good couple days. All right, so yeah, as I said before, one of the most challenging things, especially living in a place like the Pacific Northwest, is getting a fire going in any weather conditions. So, real quick, I'm going to talk you through an exercise that my apprentice is doing right now, and that's seeing how quickly you can get a fire going with a lighter in crappy weather conditions. So here's how I go about doing it. Obviously, because I'm filming this, I had to alter things a little bit. But basically, when it's really wet like this, the first thing I'm looking for is my tinder materials. So in this case, I chose a bunch of maidenhair ferns. I squeezed all of the water out of this and have just had it in my pocket drying out as I've been running around. And even though it's still damp, I think when I combine it with my fatwood that I harvested, it will go right up. So, I mentioned I'm going to be using fatwood. For those of you who are not familiar with what fatwood is, when an evergreen tree dies, all of the sap settles in the stump. So if you're ever walking through the woods and you see these stumps, I call them. So you'll see these stumps growing in the woods. I call them the Game of Thrones stumps, and they're spiky looking. And the reason why they look like that is because all of that sap settled in the stump before the tree fell over. And if I carve into that, even on a wet day like today, I can gather materials. Uh, that's basically, they call it, another name for it is fat lighter. Um, and you'll see why here in a minute. So I'm going to take my pile of little pencil lead sticks, just really quickly, once again, just tearing these apart. I'm just going to break this in two. And then what I'm going to do is take that tinder out that I had with a group of kids, dug up a fatwood stump that was underneath a lake for over 100 years, and it still lit right up. Even though the lake had been drained in 2007 and it sat under 3 feet of ground for years, it still went right up. So now I'm using my LT Wright. Shout out to LT and the crew at LT Knives. LT Wright Knives. They make some of the finest blades around. I'm going to do a little bit more creative stacking of my fat wood here. Now the goal is, you go from the smallest or the largest amount of surface area to the smallest amount of surface area. So just like you wouldn't feed a baby steak, a little tiny fire is like an infant, it needs food with a lot of surface area to be able to digest. So as you can see, that's starting to get rolling there. I've got this other piece I'm gonna carve just a few bigger chunks off of. And I'm just gonna add those. And once it gets going, right, so the heat's gonna dry out the rest of that tinder, which is eventually going to catch on onto, the tinder once it's dry enough. And then it's also drying out those pencil lead size sticks that I collected. So while, a traditional fire structure like a cone fire is great if you need a bigger fire quick. Most people think they need way more fire than they actually do. Um, you know, Anytime I've gone out, on long practice, quote unquote, survival trips by myself, I'm rarely burning stuff that's bigger than okay size, you um, because the more, the more, the more firewood you burn, the more energy you have to expend to collect that firewood. Get this a little more heat on this. Yeah. So no matter where you live, if you are near trees, there is evergreen trees somewhere, and you can find some of this. Even if you can find a pine tree that's had sap dripping from an old wound, you can collect that sap on a stick and use it as an accelerant. It's what they make turpentine out of. Yeah, it's like right at that point where I don't want to blow on it because that might cause it to go out. But I think this is a self-sustaining fire, and I did it in a few minutes. And I would say, other than my buddy and I talking, it probably only took me, if I had just collected the materials and done this, less than 5 minutes. So you can get a fire going that quickly where it's been raining for days. And then what I would do to keep this going, if I was going to let it burn or I wanted to build an actual bigger fire, I would slowly start piling on the bigger sticks. Um, and go from there. Obviously, remember your fire safety. I'm actually going to move this over into here. Remember your fire safety. Always make sure your fires are out. And, um, I'll be talking more to you soon about fire because I am almost done editing a video I've been dreaming of making for years, and you're going to love it. So until then, peace.